Tracy is an American comic strip featuring Dick Tracy, created by Chester Gould, which debuted Sunday, October 4th, 1931 in the Detroit Mirror and was distributed by the Chicago Tribune New York News Syndicate. Gould himself wrote and drew the strip until 1977. He was based on the federal agent Eliot Ness. The strip was instantly popular, with soon appearing in newspapers across the United States, although criticized for being too violent. His two-way wrist radio was introduced on January 13, 1946. During the 1950s, the Sunday strip included a frame devoted to a page from the Crime Stoppers textbook, a series of handy illustrated hints for the amateur crime fighter. This was named after a short-lived youth group seen in the strip during the late 1940s, led by Junior Tracy, called Dick Tracy's Crime Stoppers. During the 60s and the space race, he used the Space Coupe, a spacecraft with a magnetic propulsion system, and traveled to the moon. During the 70s, Dick got a new sidekick, Groovy Groove, who was introduced the same week as the Kent State shootings. After Gould's retirement, the strip continued, and Dick wound up attending Blondie and Dagwood's 75th anniversary party in the Blondie strip, as well as appearing in Gasoline Alley. In 2011, Joe Staton and Mike Curtis took over as the new creative team and brought in many of the characters and gadgets from Tracy's past. They have done many crossovers and cameos with other great strips, including Popeye, Brenda Starr, Reporter, Funky Winkerbean, The Spirit, The Green Hornet, For Better or For Worse, and Little Orphan Annie. In 1995, the strip was one of 20 included in the Comic Strip Classics series of commemorative postage stamps and postcards. On November 6, 2016, at their panel at Akron Comic-Con, Mike Curtis and Joe Staton were each presented with an Akron Comic-Con Excellence Award. The inscription on the plaque reads, 2016 Akron Comic-Con Excellence Award presented to Mike Curtis and Joe Staton for their contribution to one of the longest-running newspaper strips in the history of newspaper comics. Dick Tracy had a long-running radio program on all three main networks, NBC, CBS, and ABC, during the 30s and 40s. In 1947, Mercury Records released a two-record set with Jim Amici portraying Tracy. Dick's first comic book appearance was in 1936 by Dell. In 1937, Dick Tracy jumped into the silver screen with a serial titled Dick Tracy, followed by Dick Tracy Returns in 1938, Dick Tracy's G-Men in 1939, and last but not least, Dick Tracy vs. Crime Inc. in 1941. Dick Tracy was portrayed by Ralph Byrd. 6 years later, RKO Radio Pictures produced 4 feature films, Dick Tracy vs. Cue Ball, Dick Tracy's Dilemma, and Dick Tracy Meets Gruesome. Dick Tracy had a live-action television show in 1951 through 52 season starring Ralph Byrd, followed by The Dick Tracy Show, an animated television show produced by UPA with the voice talents of Mel Blanc and Paul Frees in 1961. He teamed up with Mr. Magoo in an episode of The Famous Adventures of Mr. Magoo in 1965. William Dozier attempted a TV series in 1967 with Ray McDonald during the Batman craze, and he joined Archie and Archie's TV Funnies in 1971. In the 60s, Aurora immortalized him as a plastic model kit. He appeared as an action figure and even in video games. In 1990, Warren Beatty produced, directed, and starred in the film Dick Tracy with a supporting cast that included Madonna, Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, just to name a few. Featuring action around every corner, Dick Tracy has conquered every avenue of entertainment. We will return right after these messages, so don't go away.